Bernard Tobin here for RealAgriculture.com, just outside of Rockwood today, and I'm joined by Vicki Wojcik and Larissa Christie. Thanks for taking the time today.
No problem.
Now we're going to talk about bees. Obviously a lot of conversations in the past months about bees, pollinators, neonicotinoids, seed treatments. But what Vicki and Larissa have been doing, they've been doing a lot of research on plant mixes and seed mixes, and what, as a farmer, you can probably plant on your farm to be more attractive and be more nutritionally beneficial to bees. So, Vicki, you work for the Pollinator Partnership. Tell me a little bit about that and how that brings you here.
Yes, so Pollinator Partnership is a nonprofit that focuses on helping all pollinators in all landscapes because pollinators are vital. They pollinate more than 80% of the crops that we plant, more than 75% of the wildflowers out in our landscapes, and it's one of every 3 bites of food we eat. So we really need to help pollinators, and one of the biggest challenges is the habitat that they have to forage on. So what we're doing in this particular study is we're focusing on foraging habitat for honeybees and wild bees on farms and trying to get some technical guidelines to help farmers understand how they can make some choices to help bees.
Awesome. Now this project's partially funded by CropScience, and as an intern, Larissa, tell us about what we have here. You did all the work, right? Is that right? Yeah. You did all the work this year. Tell us what's in the field, and again, talk about what we're starting to learn here.
Yeah, so I was responsible mostly for doing all of the weekly counts on our pollinator field. So behind us we can see we planted 7 potential cover crops, some of which included daikon radish, borage, alfalfa, and buckwheat. And so I was basically counting and identifying every single bee species that I saw that came into my quadrant, so that the idea is that when bees have a choice between these 7 crops, what do they like to eat?
Yeah. So based on the observations and what we've seen so far in your research, what have we learned?
Well, I think one of the biggest things that we've learned is that honeybees really like borage and they really like alfalfa. And so if you want to attract native bee species as well, you're going to want to go with something like the bird's foot trefoil, which tended to attract a lot of bumblebees.
What about clover now? Obviously clover is a big part of a mix in Ontario. You've got some clover in here. What have you learned about that?
Well, I definitely saw a lot of honeybees as well as bumblebees and as well as carpenter bees in our red clover, particularly in the early spring and early summer. I saw a lot of those.
Now you've had a look at the research, Vicki.
Yes.
What do you think? Anything else there that you saw?
Well, we basically have a lot of there's a lot of patterns. So what we'll be able to deliver after a few more years of study is more of a technical guideline where we can present to a farmer a list of these 7 crops. And if you really want to focus on honeybee nutrition, here are the few crops that they prefer. If you want to really focus maybe on the wild bees that are in your landscape, we have some other great bees in southern Ontario. There's leaf cutters and sweat bees. We've seen them in some numbers, lower numbers, but some numbers on these crops. So we'll be able to give you, I guess, like a menu, and you can pick and choose and plant and just help increase some of the benefits that your farm's providing in addition to the crop you're growing.
Now, how important is it to know the bees in your farm? Honeybees, bumblebees, wild bees? Because obviously that's a factor you have to work in here as well.
Well, I might be biased, but I think it is pretty important to be able to tell what part of the bee community you're helping out, because they each have different biologies. So honeybees are around all year. They're managed by your beekeepers. There's things you can do to help honeybees specifically that don't help the native bees. There's things you can do to help some of the native bees that are very different than honeybees. So being able to say, hey, I walked my field today and I saw some bumblebees, I saw some carpenter bees, I saw some leaf cutters and some honeybees, get a good idea of what you might be able to accomplish in terms of helping pollinators.
Awesome. So down the road, I mean, there's a technical guide for farmers where potentially you could consult if you're picking a mix or putting in a cover crop before you plant it, and you can make some decisions based on your commitment to bees and the bees on your farm.
Exactly. Yep.
Awesome. Well, hey, thank you so much for your time. We'll be back here next year because obviously the research is going to continue, and we'll see how you're doing and what further insights you have.
Excellent.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.